I wanted to show you a little bit about how I solved the problem of doing some point-to-point snorkels that were a little bit longer snorkels, or where I wanted to carry some things with me. And I'll tell you that the genesis, I guess the idea that I came up with, you know, it probably could be improved upon, but I saw people using when they were going spearfishing, of all things. And they would take a paddle board and then attach some things on top of it. And mine's a little bit more on the DIY side of things, but you know, it worked for what I was trying to do. So an example being, I wanted to swim from Hanson Beach here in St. John and then swim all the way around one way to Hullover South. And I had to leave a car at one end, so I had to deal with my car keys. And then I took my cell phone, don't ask me why, but I was using that to actually track GPS signals so I could see the route that I took while I was snorkeling. And then sometimes I take a different camera with me as well that had more of a zoom lens compared to the GoPro. And so obviously I didn't want to get, I mean, the keys alone, if you get those wet with the electronics, they're $350 to replace your keys. So I came up with a multi-stage way of dealing with it. First of all, my fancy wallet. You know, if you're just carrying money and credit cards, probably okay to get all that stuff wet. I would typically carry an extra GoPro battery and put that into the ZIPLOC bag. And then my keys as well would go into the ZIPLOC bag, which by itself is, you know, not real good as far as keeping water out. But it was really more of a third line of defense for me to doing that. So the next thing I would do is I got this ZIPLOC, which again, it's not, you know, it's not totally waterproof by itself. But what it would do was allow, you know, the dry bag, which I'll show next, it allowed it to set in the dry bag, and then if water came in a little bit here and there, you know, it had to then penetrate through to the ZIPLOC. So I would take my fancy wallet, my cell phone, and other camera, and then put them into my ZIPLOC. In my ZIPLOC, I just put a little bit of foam in there as well to kind of keep things in place. All right, so we've got the ZIPLOC, we've got the Tupperware. On top of that, I added a dry bag. So I got this off of Amazon. It was just the Sea Lion 10 liter. 10 liter seemed to be fine. To get the appropriate size Tupperware, I actually went into Walmart and found one that fit. So my Tupperware went inside. You know, you need to be able to do like 4 good rolls to keep things dry. So you would, you know, give it a good 4 rolls, clip that. And the dry bag itself, you know, you don't want to submerge it all the time. It's not for that. It's more of just kind of shedding water as it drips onto it. But I also just didn't want to like have the dry bag floating behind me. And so that's where I saw like online some videos where they then would take something like this, I don't know if it's called a Boogie Board or what, but and then the idea came that I would just take this and then attach it on top. And so all I did was then take, you know, some canoe straps that I had that were fairly long, and then wrap it around, you know, here so that the dry bag would stay attached to the board itself. And that would add a little bit more flotation so the bag was just not resting in the water. You know, you could probably do it with the bag resting in the water if you had a little bit better waterproof bags for your keys and things inside. But I can show you some videos now of how that looked in the water while I was actually snorkeling. So overall I was quite happy with how it performed. There was one trip that we did though that you know, I just didn't want to take all that stuff, and it worked just as fine, and that was, you know, I had a smaller dry bag. I put my keys in there, and then when I got to the trailhead for where we're starting at, I just found a rock and put it all underneath the rock, and you know, just swam, and then came back to the car, and you know, got my keys out from the dry bag that was hidden under a rock, and you know, that worked fine too. So either way, it just depends on what you want to carry with you, why you actually do your snorkeling. Anyways, I hope that was helpful, and if you have better ideas, definitely, you know, post them below, and you know, I'm willing to learn. I might do things a little bit differently next time, but I was satisfied for being able to do it this time. Thanks.